Hey guys, Tokyo Game Show, day one, Mr. Peter Brown. You've taken a look at a video game I knew you were excited about seeing coming into TGS. What'd you see? What was it?
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. It's a new demo for TGS, mostly focusing on Black Raiden.
So give us a recap. You played this one, right? It wasn't a demo.
Right, yeah. So I played this, and essentially it starts you out in a training room, which we hadn't seen before. Before they had sort of in-game cues telling you how to operate the slow-mo, deliberate slicing mode. This was definitely more of like a, holding your hand, getting you ready. That ended really quick, and then it kind of took you into more of a story-driven thing. It started with Raiden kind of coming in on an aircraft, and he was being directed by people out in the field. It seemed as though he was working for this company called Maverick Security Consulting, and that's one of the things that Kojima has mentioned Raiden does now to sort of support his family, and why he sort of maintains this violent, cyborg persona. Kind of contrary to what we saw at the end of Metal Gear Solid 4, where he was a little more peaceful. There's a new character named Boris, who seemed to be kind of significant. He did most of the talking with Raiden. Then they sort of focused on an older gentleman, looked to be like a scientist, who was holding these robotic arms. So when they got to the island and Raiden started fighting his targets, essentially, they were also cyborgs. So it seemed to be that the scientist was perhaps responsible for the enemy targets that Raiden was going after, and this private corporation he was working for was there to take care of them. But once they got to the island, they were sort of like, okay, what is this? Like, where is this other group coming from? It was all in Japanese, so I'm not really positive if that's the scenario, but based on just sort of deciphering what I saw, that seemed to be the case. The very end of the demo, they introduced the dog cyborg that they sort of announced for Gamescom, and they showed a little bit. So he faces off against Raiden, and then once you defeat him, he's sort of on the ground, but then Raiden gets his communication wirelessly, and the dog is essentially communicating to him. The screen went black, and all we saw was Japanese subtitles, something about AI, and then the game demo was over. So we've heard that the dog befriends Raiden, and they sort of become, partners in a sense. We were also told in the past that Alex Rodriguez, I think it's Alex, he's another cyborg who sort of is Raiden's main enemy, and the dog sort of is this link between the two. We didn't get to see any of that, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. New Black Raiden, some battle with the dog. But it was a lot of fun, and it's nice to have sort of an intro now, because the mechanics are different. People do need a little bit of a lesson, I think.
Did they show any new mechanics, or was it fairly similar to the E3 demo in terms of the combat and the abilities?
The combat was pretty similar. There was some new, it seemed like an air dash kick move that I hadn't seen before. Apart from that, it was all pretty standard. You had your grenade, you had your missile launcher at one point. There were, I wouldn't call them stealth elements, but there were parts where you would be walking on a second floor balcony, and there would be guys below you. And you could essentially hit circle button, and Raiden would come down on top of them and take them out. I don't recall that being in the previous demos. It might have been, because it wasn't really a highlight of this. But that's pretty much it. Sort of a more refined overall experience with some more story.
Well, we'll dig into a little more. Obviously, you picked up a lot considering it was in Japanese.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan, so yeah.
Well, it's a convoluted series at the best of times. When you add a language on top as well, that's a whole other element. But we will have more on Metal Gear Rising from TGS.
Yes, I'll have impressions written up really soon.
Perfect. You can check those out on the site in full, as long as all of the videos from the show.